Hey everybody, Kirby White again. This is going to be a tutorial on using Microsoft Word, specifically their style guides and headings and templates to make writing and drafting and reorganizing and editing your papers more easy. So we're going to cover a couple things. This might seem like it's not quite relevant at first, but bear with me. By the end, all this stuff will kind of piece together. The first thing that we're going to talk about is styles, which if you have the Office 365 version of Word, which actually only promo that. If you're an SPU student, you should definitely get that. Go to spu.edu/downloads and go to current students and get yourself some Office for Windows or Office for Mac. Go to CIS if you need help troubleshooting that. They are really experienced in helping students get that figured out. If they can't help you, I'll bet Google might be able to help. Actually, go to Google first, then go to CIS, and if none of that works, come to me. I doubt I can fix it, but hey, you know, sometimes you get lucky. So let's talk about styles first. When you're in Word, you're on the Home tab, and this is just a blank document that I've opened up. And it may look a bit different because I've already modified some of my settings in a way that that just makes this different. So yours might not work the same way that mine does. But essentially we've got the basic text that that shows up when you start typing. There will be some font that is default to it, so I think Calibri is a really common one. So this might be in Calibri instead of Times New Roman, the way mine is. You might have a different font size, but whatever it is, that's okay. You know, the text that you start typing is just the default settings for what you have. And oftentimes when we write our papers, we start writing and then, you know, we might highlight it and we can double space it. Let's see, where's the double spacing? This one, we'll like double space it because that's how we're turning in our papers, even though your default might be single spaced. So we double space it, and that's great. And we make sure that that we indent the first line of our paragraph. Microsoft Word might do that for you automatically. If you don't know how to do that, or it doesn't, you can hit the Tab key, and that will indent your first line. So try that out. But basically, we have this, and we want to center our heading. So let's say this is the title of the paper. But we, of course, know that we capitalize our titles, the main words in the title. So we've got our title and our first paragraph. And then we're going to have heading 1, which, you'll change this to Times New Roman or whatever font you use, and you'll bold it because this is going to be a new heading in your paper, and of course then you'll left justify it, and you're getting your formatting from the APA Publication Manual 6th edition, which tells you everything you need to know about how to format an APA paper. And if you go to page 60, I think it's 62, let me pull it up. Yeah, page 62 here, let me see if I can show you, has a table of how to organize your headings in a paper. This is kind of the hierarchy and the organization of a paper. So we've got heading 1, and then of course you have to have some text that's not going to be bolded, and then you might have heading 2, which I think is going to be over here and bolded, but it's indented. So let's copy some of this text just to give ourselves a good example. Between heading 1 and heading 2, there has to be text, and so between headings there has to be some sort of paragraph. You don't want to go, you for instance would not turn in a paper that goes heading 1, heading 2, and then the text. No, that's not how it works. So we've got ourselves a couple paragraphs, and then we want heading 3, and actually let me look this one up. I think heading 3 might be on the same line as the paragraph, but still bolded. Yes, heading 3 is indented, boldface, lowercase paragraph heading ending with a period. So it will be bold, but indented and lowercase. So if this were multiple words, we might say like job performance and complexity. That is lowercase, meaning that we're not capitalizing every word the way in heading 2 we'd say job performance. Maybe just job performance is our heading. Here we are capitalizing all the words, and all this is on page 62 in your APA manual. So you have to know this stuff, or at least know where to find it. So here, of course, now we put in our text because heading 3 is at the same level as the start of it. So all this is, should kind of look somewhat familiar. You've probably seen this before as you're writing your papers. So this is just an outline, and this is the way most people will write their papers, and it's kind of okay. It's not broken. It's not necessarily a bad way to do it, but I'm going to suggest that there's a better way to do it, and that's what this video is all about. So let's talk for a second about styles here. Styles are a way of pre-formatting some of your text. It can be quite simple. So let's open this up, and I'm going to select this text, and we'll open up that menu and just see what our options are. And we can hover over something and see that it changes the formatting based on whatever our style is that we're suggesting. So maybe this one's called intense quote. So we'll make that an intense quote. And we might make this heading 1. We'll give it the title of heading 6, or the style heading 6. Actually, we'll give it the style quote. So you can see just from this how easy it is to make big changes to your formatting just with a different heading. So we are going to create a new style and then apply it to different parts of our text. So I'm just going to select out of this. I'm going to go to create a style, and we're going to call this one style 2 because yeah, we are. And when I clicked edit style, it brings me to this formatting page, and here I can change all kinds of things. So we're going to make the color of style 2 orange, and we'll bold it, and we'll give it a font size of 20 and a completely different font, and we're gonna make it right justified and single spaced. We've made a bunch of changes, and so we are going to click OK here. We're going to create this new style, and that applies it to the text that we had, and it now is in our style guide. Here is style 2. Let me get rid of that one real quick. So here we've got style 2 that's added to our style menu, and if I want to give that style to anything else, I just highlight the text that I care about, or I get it on that line, and now I can apply style 2 to whatever I want. And the style of Microsoft Word recognizes what is in a paragraph, and so you can see here that all this is the same paragraph, and so if I were to apply style 2 here, it's going to give it to the entire paragraph and not just the heading that I wanted. So we're going to run into a problem with that a little bit later, but it comes up so rarely that it's not going to be a big deal in your grad school career. But that is a real quick rundown on styles. They have these things called styles that let you change a lot of formatting really quickly. So let's undo a bunch of this nonsense that I did and start talking about APA stuff, because we can essentially build style guides off the APA formatting and use that to very quickly build an APA formatted and organized paper. So let's talk about how to do that. We're going to start with this normal one. I think every Word document has a normal style here, and if you right click on it, go to modify, and that will open up this formatting window that we were in when we created it in the first place. And here you should follow what you know as the APA formatting. So we're going to change the font there, probably from Calibri to Times New Roman. We could set the font at 11 or 12, kind of your preference. I like to write in font 11, and then at the very end I make it font 12, and it just makes me feel like I wrote so much more. We are going to left justify it, which is good, and we're going to have it double spaced because we have that, and we'll keep the color automatic. And down here is an important thing. You want to check the box Add to Styles Gallery, but you also might want to check New Documents based on this template. If you do that, that's going to affect all the future documents that you open in Microsoft Word. This is essentially how I have changed it that when I open Word, I'm automatically writing in Times New Roman instead of Calibri or whatever the default is. So you may want to do that, you may not. I recommend watching this whole video and then making your decisions on whether you want to do that. It is defaulting to having a 1/2 inch indent on the first line of a paragraph, and that is set by clicking on this Format tab and going to Paragraph, and here's this indentation menu with left, right, and special. And so in special we say first line by 1/2 inch. In your references later on we'll talk about having a hanging indent, and that's where you can change it in there. You want all these, this is where the line spacing happens, you want these to be 0 but the line spacing to be double. These points here are essentially how much cushion there is on the top and bottom side of lines of text. For APA, we don't really need to worry about this other than these should be 0 and double spaced, and that will be perfectly adequate for our work. So we'll click OK, and we'll click OK here, and now we have modified this normal style to exactly the formatting that we have here. So that's a pretty handy thing. We can also then do that with our headings. I'm going to do it on heading 2. You could change it to heading 1 if you wanted, but basically what I did was went through and made styles that were formatted the way the APA publication manual tells me I need to organize my headings. So I have built those styles already for the headings and for the normal text and for references in there. So if you want, go ahead and pause the video for a minute, play around with styles. I don't recommend at this point saving your styles for new documents. Sometimes that can cause problems that are a little nuanced, so I won't talk about why, but just maybe don't do that until the end, until after you watch the whole video. But yeah, that's how we can use styles to create APA format and organized papers. One of the neat things that happens about the styles, and here, sorry, I'll come back to it, but one of the neat things about styles is that when we're using the headings, we can create essentially a table of contents out of it. So I'm going to go to the View tab, and I'm going to check this box Navigation Pane, and that's going to bring up this thing over here, this box that I can select on headings or pages, so I can see, you know, a real zoomed out view of the paper, or results if there's something else, you know, that's in here. But we want to focus on this headings one, and the description here is, you know, create an interactive outline of your document. It's a great way to keep track of where you are, or quickly move around, blah blah blah. And you might be thinking, well, there's nothing in here. It looks like there's no headings, when obviously we do have headings. Like here's heading 1 and heading 2, and we got a heading 3 down here. And the title is, of course, a heading. And that is because Microsoft Word doesn't recognize that these are headings. And that's because when we put it there, all we did was center the text. I'm using Control-E to center that, or some of you may click this button. So all we did was center it. Microsoft Word doesn't recognize that this is a heading. It just sees it as centered text. But when we use our style guide, especially if we modify the existing styles that are labeled headings, that then tells Word that it should recognize that this is a heading, and it starts building an organization of the paper. So here we're going to select this, and we're going to call it heading 1. Heading 1 is what I use for titles and references, because that is a certain formatting. Anything that has that formatting, I call heading 1. Now this one here, APA would call this heading 1. I'm going to call it heading 2 because this is a separate section of the paper. And so I'm going to apply the style of heading 2. And you can see that here it's building now this outline of the whole paper. So job performance, which is a subsection of heading 2, I'm going to apply heading 3. And so you see that changed the formatting. Prior to that it was indented. Turns out that's an incorrect way to have it. It's supposed to be left justified. And let's say we want another one. So job satisfaction is our next subheading within, you know, heading 2. I don't know, prior research, maybe that's what we'll call it. So this is the lit review portion of our paper, and I'm just going to delete this one for now. So job satisfaction is now in here, so you can see that we're building this outline. And if there's some text, and then I'm going to put in another heading prior research, let's say, I don't know, upcoming or discussion. This is the discussion section of our paper. And then, of course, we have some text, and now I'm going to build, sorry, not heading 2, heading 3, subsection 1, text, subsection 2, and that's we're going to call that heading 3, and text, and then I'm going to create a new page. I'm going to call this one heading 1 and references. And so now you can see over here that we've got this whole outline built. We've got the title of the paper, and so that's encompassing everything between it and the references paper. And then we have our first kind of major section, prior research or a lit review or an introduction or whatever you want to call it, your discussion or your methods or your results, whatever it is. And if we have this navigation pane open, if we just click on one of these, it just takes us right to it. So when you start building long papers, I think by the end of OB and LTD, you'll probably have 10, 12, 15 page papers, and ultimately, by the time you're working on a dissertation, you're probably jumping around 60, 80, 150 pages. And so I can't imagine scrolling up and down through a Word document to get to different parts of the paper. So if you have this navigation pane, you can very quickly and easily jump around to see things. The other thing that you can do that just makes it easier while you're writing is you can collapse sections of it. So here I'm just going to hover my cursor over job performance, and you can see this little gray triangle that shows up. If I click on that, it's going to collapse all this text and just bring job satisfaction up right next to it. So let's prove it. There it is. So it just collapsed that. If you print it, it will print this way, so I don't recommend leaving it that way, and I don't do this often, but it can make it really helpful to just kind of truncate your paper in a way that makes it easy for you to move around as you're writing, mostly when it turns into very large papers. If we wanted to, we can collapse the title of the paper, and then the only thing that's left is the references, because that is the same level of hierarchy as the title of the paper. If we had footnotes or an appendix, we'd probably do that same thing there. So let's uncollapse that. But we can collapse down prior research just for fun, and discussion too. So here we have the title of our paper, and then the headings, the major headings that are part of it, but not the subheadings. So that's the other thing that you can do by using styles and this navigation pane, is it's building that structure of the paper. Now, one of the things that you can do that we don't do very often in our program, but you might do in consulting work, or if you're building reports, is build a table of contents that is based on this outline and structure. So I'm going to go to references. Is that the right place? Yep, I'm going to go to references and insert table of contents, and these are just pre-formatted. You can customize these the same way we customize the styles. I'm not going to mess with that or cover that here, but you can see I just clicked that button and it has built a table of contents for me, and it will auto update as you go as these pages change. So if I write a whole bunch more in this prior research, job performance, and job satisfaction sections, these page numbers will change as the paper gets longer every time you update the table. So it's building this. You don't have to think about, if you're writing a report that has a table of contents and then you add a section, you don't have to then go back and modify your table of contents, or remember to keep that in the back of your head going, thinking, is the table of contents up to date? Have we changed this? And then making sure that somebody checks it every time. It's just doing it for you. This is another way I outsource my conscientiousness, because I have none. So that's a table of contents. Probably won't use it much for our research papers, but it's a handy thing to know, and that's one of the main things that happens when you have papers built this way. So that's really the big benefit of using styles instead of going through and customizing your formatting every time you're making a shift between headings or sections or whatever it is. So I really recommend that you use those styles. And now the reason I told you to maybe hold off on saving any style edits that you've made until the end of the video is because we can save these pre-formatted papers as templates. So once you create a paper or you open up a Word document and you modify it and you change all your styles to the way that you want, you've set it up in your APA formatting, when you go to File and Save As, instead of, we'll just browse here. Wherever you're picking where to save it to, instead of saving it like as a Word document that maybe you open up and then rewrite every time, save it as a Word template, a .x. And that's automatically going to take it to a special folder on your computer where it hides these things. And so I'm going to call this one tutorial example .x. And this puts it in a special place that it just knows when you open this paper that you're not trying to overwrite that file. You're going to want to save it as a new one. So I'm going to close out of Word, and we'll come back to that section in a bit. Sorry, I'm being a little verbose today. This is a longer video already than I was hoping for, but, you know, tough. And sorry, Word on my computer struggles a little bit, so it still hasn't closed, but there we go. Okay, so I'm going to reopen Word. And let's see what we can do. Before saying, you know, open up a new document, it's offering me previously opened examples here, and so if we just find this one, or I'm sorry, I'm going to go over here to More Templates, and it's going to take me to this menu. And Word gives you a ton of stuff. There's a bunch of templates that are in here. You do blog posts, cover letters, resumes, business reports, wedding invitations, or menus. There's a ton of stuff, and you can search for those online. But if we click on this personal menu, you'll see I've got some of these already in here, but we're going to open up this tutorial example, and that will have all the changes that we made saved to it. So if there's a document that you're continually coming back to and modifying, like a form or you know, a report that has all the major sections that you just need to fill in, and something that you're doing very regularly, build the outline once in Word, set it up the way you want it, and then save it as a template, and you can always just open it up and come back to this. It has saved all the styles that we wanted to, but I don't think it hasn't modified the like blank workbook. So if you only want this on special occasions, save it as a template. You'll have your styles when you open it up, and you won't have them when you don't want it. So that's great. So that's a way you can build your own if you want to. Now, this is probably more detail than many of you cared about, but I think you need to know how styles work so that you can take advantage of other people's templates that you want. So now I'm going to show you the APA template that is included in Word that is really powerful, but honestly is a little over-engineered. I don't use it. I don't necessarily recommend that you do either, but you should at least know that it's available. So here on the featured templates, when I just was saying I want to open a new or create a new document, I scrolled down, and APA Style Report 6th edition is one that is included in the Microsoft library. If for some reason it's not there, you can do a search for APA, and it's going to think for a second, and it'll give you these templates. This one is labeled 6th edition, so we're going to go with that one. So we're going to click on it. I double-clicked, which automatically creates it, and holy smokes, it is an APA formatted template that you can start with, and it has the running head already in there. It's got your title and cover page, your section for an abstract, all the headings are pre-formatted in here. It's got a references section, a place for footnotes. It gives you, I haven't looked at these to see if these are properly formatted. I mean, it looks close enough. You got table 1, your table title that's right there. I think that's supposed to be italicized though. Your column heads, your note for it. So it's doing some work for you. There's some really great stuff in here. You put in your figures title. You can insert a chart right here, and it's got your notes. I mean, this is a really significant and large template. It also, when I open it up, it has defaulted to having this researcher tab, which is a place where you can look for articles and add citations automatically into your paper. That automatically gets built into a bibliography, very much the way that Mendeley does, but worse. So I do not recommend using Word to manage your citations. Even though it technically works the same way, it's more confusing, it takes longer, it does not go with you, so you can't as easily cite the same article again in a future paper, and it is prone to breakage. So I find Mendeley much better for managing citations than Word, even though Word is trying to do that as well. So there's a bunch of stuff in this template that we don't need. I don't think in the student environment we don't really write author's notes, rarely write an abstract, every now and then you do. And then like footnotes, I don't think I've had a paper that had footnotes in it. The appendix, sure, every now and then. But you can see when I click on this stuff, it's highlighting gray in the background. You may remember seeing that from the Mendeley tutorial as well. And when it does that, that's kind of just letting you know that whatever is here is an object. Either something else put it in there, so like Mendeley is the program that's responsible for putting in the content in this area, or this is being used elsewhere. Let me give you an example of that. I'm kind of freewheeling a little bit, so let's you might have to bear with me, but let's change this title. So we're going to change the title to Job Performance and Evaluations. And I think if I scroll up, you will see that that is, this might not work for me. So I'm going to, oops. See, you get errors like that. See if I can find a good example. Hang on, I'm going to pause it. Okay, turns out I was just doing it backwards. So here we have this gray object, which is some sort of title field. So just to prove it, I'm going to scroll down to the title that's down here before the body of the paper, and I'm going to change this one to Job Performance in Complex Organizations. And I mean, this is one of the neat things about the template. It has taken that and oh, there it goes. Okay, and it's updated it down here. So it is saving you work in that regard, but it's also doing that, or it's thinking of these paragraphs as objects as well, which kind of throws me off a little bit. It also automatically has these footnotes that are inserted, so you kind of have to clear those out. You have to change your headings. I guess this isn't such a big deal because you can just change it, but even then it's not like you have to change their formatting to get the text indented and formatted correctly. Headings 3 and 4 aren't supposed to be on a separate line from the text, which you know from your APA publication manual. So that's kind of goofy that they're using those as headings in the navigation pane. Heading 4, oh, I guess it is in there. So there's just some issues with this, and it just feels a little overcomplicated to me. So it is good. Go ahead and take a look at it, and you should know it's there, because if you're in a place where it is useful, that's great. Go for it. I'm going to close out of this though, and I'm going to share. I'll show you guys, and I'll share with you the template that I built for myself. So I'm going to go to New and Personal, and I use APA Template 2. So this is kind of the same thing, just a bit slimmed down. It does not have the nice features that if you change the title here, it won't change it down here. I don't have headings already pre-added into here. So it's really not as complex as theirs. You have to click into the heading to do the running head, Job Performance, and so you have to change that in both places, whereas I think on the other one, if you change the heading or the running head up top, it drops that down here. So of course they put more time into theirs. I do have a sample table here that you can steal that's pre-formatted. But the styles should all be in here. So I've got a heading for title and abstract, or title, abstract, and references. So that's the way this one is formatted. You can see the references come formatted that way. So already in your navigation pane, it's starting to build out the structure. And so for me, I just start writing my paper, and then I have my big heading or whatever, and I call that heading 2. And so it's building over here. That should be capitalized. And we have our text and so on and so forth. So I'm going to share this with you guys. It comes with the styles. It's got a sample table in it. It's got the place down here for you just to go to your references from Mendeley and drop in your bibliography if you want to. Yeah, so go ahead and use it. Open it up. When you download it, change your name on this, change whatever else you want to, and then the way I showed you earlier, go to Save As and save that file as a Word template. Give it whatever title you want, and then it's just going to be there for you. So whenever you open up Word and you create a new document, go to your Personal tab, and whatever you save there as a template is going to be in this area with all the styles and the pre-saved text and whatever you want. So I'm going to share this with you. I hope this has been helpful. Oh gosh, there's one thing I forgot to talk about. If for some reason, we're going back to page organization. Heading 2, we'll just make this another big heading, and we'll give it a... We'll give it some subheadings as well. So here, we've got, just imagine that this is a full paper that's in here. Yeah, we can see we got our title, big heading, subheadings, heading 2, blah, blah, blah. One of the things that's great about this, and you don't use it too often, but just in case you need to, you can grab an entire section and move it. So I just moved heading 2 above big heading. And of course that messed up some of the formatting, but that's okay. There's just a page break in the way. Yeah, so you can shift around sections of your paper with great ease that way. So like, let's go down here to big heading, text 1. I should call this heading head 1, head 2, just for clarity. But so head 2 is second. I'm just going to bump it up above head 1, and now I'm going to take head 1, which has text in it. I'm going to take heading 1 and bump it up to head 2, and the text all came with it. So you can move those big sections up and down with the navigation pane super easily by using headings and styles. So sorry I forgot that earlier, but I think that's it for this video. Sorry it's a little bit long and ramble-ish, but that should give you some good detail on how to work with Microsoft Word and use the styles to pre-format and organize your papers. And to me, gosh, I just love this because it helps me think about the content I'm trying to put into the paper and not nearly as much about how to format it, how to organize it. I don't go back and forth to the APA manual every paper to make sure my headings are formatted correctly, because I made sure that I got it right the first time, and then I just replicate it. So hopefully this helps you too. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to help troubleshoot or whatever, go into more detail if you've got more questions. See you next time.